Hello, everyone. I see some friends and some faraway friends. Okay, just a second. I'm here. Okay, excellent. Hello. So nice to see you all. Thank you all for coming. And there's still a few more people coming in, so we'll give everybody a moment. Hello, Marnie. Trying to join by computer. Okay, Ainsley's going to help you.
Yay!
Yay!
Hello, Louise.
Hello, Marianne.
Not muted.
Yay, Marnie, I can see you, so you must be on. Hello, Karen from afar. Nice to have you here.
Hi there.
Excellent.
I'm on my phone. I want to join on the computer, but I don't know what the password is.
Okay. Okay, she just put it, Ainsley just put it in the chat. If you can see the link on the chat side. To go to the, she's emailing it to you also, Marnie. Okay. Well, I think I'll start in. I know Ainsley's going to continue to make sure everybody gets in and everybody's good. So follow along on the chat or ask questions on the chat, well, throughout the whole event. But if you just need to get in or need any technical support, she's on the other computer just over here, making sure everybody's good. Okay. So I'll start. Welcome, everybody. Today's one of my favorite. When I was writing out my whole agenda of everything I wanted to do, I was very excited about today's workshop, and my list of things that I wanted to share and present today just kind of kept getting longer and longer. So I've got a lot of things to run through, and Ainsley will be posting all the links and recipes and info, anything that I felt like was, you know, that I was going to be talking about. She's going to be posting that along in the chat window. And we'll follow up with that on our website as well. So these events are part of the Stay at Home Manitoba program. We're very pleased and thankful to get some support from the provincial government to run these. And we are recording today's session, and we'll be making YouTube videos of the whole series of 10. So we're doing 10 workshops, and this is number 4. So welcome. So today I'm talking about, I call today's workshop Tender Loving Care with Plant Medicine. And that has been really all of my adult life, something I've been working towards learning. I am a lay herbalist. I am not a trained herbalist. So anything that I'm going to talk about today is my own experience and my own learning. But I also encourage you to seek out other professionals. And we're very lucky in our community here in Winnipeg to have Chad Cornell, who is the proprietor of Hollow Reed Holistic. And he is both a herbalist for, you know, to make appointments with, but he also runs the apothecary where you can get many of these herbs. So most of what I'm going to be talking today is about what my practice is and what I do. So that is what I would like to share with you. Another one of my strong mentors is somebody that you might want to learn from, who is has a wonderful book, Laura Reeves. I'm not sure if anybody's Manitoba botanist, and she wrote this book, Laura Reeves' Guide to Useful Plants, and it really is an awesome guide. She's got all kinds of every pictures and diagrams and little anecdotes, as well as, you know, things that you need to think about when you're wildcrafting. So I wanted to start with Laura and what she brings to the table in terms of wildcrafting. And so if you don't know, the term wildcrafting means to be in nature and find your plants in nature, which of course is how humans would have evolved plant medicine to start with over, you know, thousands and thousands of years of saying this plant helps with this and that plant helps with that. And over time, developing this incredibly rich resource that we now, you know, are losing this knowledge. And that's why it became important to me to really study it and share it and use it in my own life for my own wellness and family's wellness, as well as for my animals, much of this translates to animals, and there's a whole other world of learning about herbal medicine for animals, which I also practice as a student. So that's been really great for me, and that's what I'm going to share today. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about in Wildcrafting, and this also comes from Laura. Laura has Prairie Shore Botanicals is her business, and I've got this calamus root package in my store that she wildcrafts herself. So when she wildcrafts this and then sells it, she's doing it with the highest of ethical standards. And so I want to talk a little minute about what that is. So if you're learning about plants and learning about how to find them in nature and going out into nature and then harvesting them and then using them, that's all great. However, the big disclaimer is you need to be able to know what that ecosystem is and what you can take from that ecosystem that will not hurt it. So because we are on a fragile planet as it is, but we in Manitoba have a huge resource of natural ecosystems. We're very, very fortunate. And so for myself, I have a special relationship with the Nopeming Forest area. It's been something that has been, I've been connected to it in my family, and I wanted to talk for a little moment about my dear Aunt Alice, not my Aunt Catherine, my Aunt Alice Chambers, who was an environmentalist, since passed away, but she worked for her much of her adult life on protecting Nopeming Forest as a biologist. And I'm just going to get Ainsley, she's going to post up a little award ceremony that she got just before she died of cancer. And she died at my age right now, the age that I am. And so I learned from her as a young, like a teenager growing into my early 20s. And I'm really very grateful. And now I have a really special relationship with Nopeming Park because I have the opportunity to go there. That is my place of retreat. And so I'm able to go there often throughout the summer months. It's where I go when I need to rejuvenate, and that forest is just so wonderful to breathe in. So I do have a wildcrafting practice that is based on the Nopeming Forest ecosystem. And what that means to me is that I need to understand what is happening in that ecosystem. I need to watch it. I need to see what plants are flourishing, what are in abundance, when they are struggling. If, you know, one year a blight comes in and I notice it, well, we don't take those plants. So that you can't know by just simply walking into a forest and saying, oh, there's this beautiful flower or there's this beautiful plant. So I really encourage that if you are in a position where you can understand even a close ecosystem like the river forests that we have in Winnipeg, the, you know, just outside a river, the park areas, although you're technically not supposed to harvest in park. If you are so fortunate to have any kind of piece of land where you can cultivate those plants, I highly encourage that. So when I first moved to this farm 16 years ago, there were 4 species of vegetation on the plant. It was a monoculture, and even the lawn was almost monoculture. So what I've been doing for this area, with this area that really wasn't a natural ecosystem, it was very much an agricultural ecosystem, it is to bring back that diversity. So I have been slowly gathering, planting, expanding to the point where there are over 120 different species of plants in my immediate area. And that to me is, you know, one of the accomplishments that I feel very strong about, is how we can regrow those ecosystems. So those are 2 perspectives on wildcrafting that you must adhere to. Is if you are in a natural environment, you must know it. And if you are in a non-natural environment, I encourage you to help recreate that environment by planting plants. So I'm going to share with you my boreal forest mix later in the workshop. But just in terms of remembering that, what I'm doing now, I brought in a couple trays from the greenhouse because I'm absolutely thrilled with what's going on in my greenhouse this year. And this is a tray of echinacea. And I have 3 of these trays, so that's a lot of plants right now. And echinacea is a wonderful plant, purple coneflower it's also called, and another, super immune booster and just wonderful prairie plant that we have everywhere. But it grows prolifically if you just leave it alone. It's harder to start. So I'm really thrilled that I was able to start that much seed from seed, and that now I'll be able to move like quite a large patch of echinacea into my front area. So that's how I have been growing my diversity. I also want to show you another plant. It's a little hard to see up close, but these are so cute. And these right now are at their 2-leaf stage, almost going into their 3-leaf stage. And those are white sage, and we'll talk about those later. And I have quite a few plants. So that plant is not native to our ecosystem. White sage does not grow here naturally. So that is a plant that I'm going to plant and harvest like I would any vegetable. It is a perennial where it grows like in California, but here it will only grow as an annual. It won't be able to go through the winter. So you would have to bring it in. But I've found over the years that bringing in sage plants, it's very difficult to keep them through the winter. Whereas when you plant them as annuals, they grow quite big in their first year. So if you want to harvest that white sage, then you're able to just harvest it as if it was an annual. So those are just a few of from just kind of different perspectives of how I'm gardening with these, and gardening in the very big sense of the word, both in actual formal gardens, but also just in the ecosystem and trying to work with the ecosystem that I have and just continually expanding that. So the next little section of things that I wanted to talk about are where do you go if you want to grow these plants? So this is something that not all seed stores carry these kinds of plants. So I wanted to point out a few that I use regularly and that I really love. And one of them is Richter's. This is a company in Ontario, and Ainsley will put up the links to all of these ones. So that's a company in Ontario that is pretty much, well, they have vegetables as well, but they really, grew as a name in the medicinal plants, and you can get many, many plants on here. Not all, but many. So another company that I've mentioned before in our first workshop, and I'll mention them again because well, I'm not sure if the pandemic has done this to anybody else, but I seem to have a lot of extra time. So I have had a lot of January time to plan and research that I don't seem to have in other years. And I really wanted to see what was out there in terms of small seed companies in Canada. And I found a ton. So I started just ordering a few things from all of them just to see how they were and how I could work with them. And I've been so pleased because I've found lots of different varieties that you don't find in the bigger companies like Richter's. So this one is rainbow seeds. So I've got some catnip there, as maybe you can see. But anyway, rainbow seeds. I don't need to show you these. Raven song seeds. I just to tell you what I'm planting right now, this is what I'm going to be planting tomorrow. So I've got lady's mantle, ashwagandha, blue vervain, and I found black elder, Sambucus nigra. We're going to make some elderberry syrup later, and I found some black elder seeds, which is really great. I'm very excited to try to grow that. Another company that has a lot of tree seeds. So we think about growing plants, but how about growing some trees from seed? Is called the Incredible Seed Company. They're from Canada as well, and Nova Scotia. And tomorrow I'm going to plant some mullein. So we have a lot of mullein. It seeds itself, and I don't know if you know mullein. It grows in that, it has that big spire with all the little yellow flowers around them, and big lush fluffy petals, and great for your lungs. And so even though we have it already well established on the property, I never know where it's going to come up. And some years it comes up in abundance here and there. It's a biennial. So that means it grows its base rosette plant the first year, and then the second year it shoots up that big spike. So I wanted to get quite a bit more growing, and I want to grow it, try to grow it in a garden in a row, so I can more control it and have more of it here. You often see this on the side of the road. And then West Coast Seeds is also excellent. And I have ordered from them before, but it was really great to have the time to just really browse their catalog. And I'm putting in right now bergamot, which is, we also know it as Earl Grey tea, bergamot, and lemongrass, which I've bought before as a plant, but I've never grown it as seed. So I was excited to find that seed, so I'll be growing some of that. So those are our seeds. And just very recently, I sent away to an American company in Oregon, strictly medicinal seeds, and they have a ton, even more than what Richter's has. And they sent out, when they sent me this free catalog, they also sent me a package, a package of ashwagandha seeds. And that is the second ashwagandha package that I have. I had already ordered it. And it was interesting because last year I grew ashwagandha for the first time. I've grown a plant here or there, but I grew a whole plot of it last year. It's like a, they call it the East Indian ginseng. So it's like what we know of ginseng, and it is that same root that we use, but it also doesn't grow in our climate as a perennial, but it grows as an annual. So you can get a small root from it as an annual plant, which is what I did last year. So I thought, okay, this year I'm going to try to plant a much larger row of it and see how that goes. So now I've got 2 packages of ashwagandha. So the universe is telling me to grow ashwagandha, and so I am responding by saying, yes, I will. The other super fun plant that I love, if you've ever seen it, is, oh, okay, this is a genuine, it just sprouted, is ginkgo. So ginkgo, first of all, it's really sprouting. This, honestly, I didn't open it today. And it's got this big seed. So there's the root going down. And then if you can see, there's 2 shoots coming out. So it's a tree. And ginkgo is, I've grown it in the past. It almost doesn't grow in our climate, but I did once, like many years ago, I grew one and it lived for 7 years. It's like it lives 7 years in our climate, and then the 8th year it just didn't come back. So I decided to get some seeds for it, and it needs to be stratified. So that means you have to keep it in a warm, moist dark environment for a while, and then you have to put it in a cold environment, and then you have to bring it back into a warm environment to kind of, and some of the other seeds like the echinacea requires that. It's called stratification, where you kind of mimic that back and forth of temperatures that seeds in nature are going to go through. Because if you think of all the seeds that are out right now, they're frozen, right? And in the spring, they're going to wake up when it's a warm day, and then it's going to freeze again, they're going to freeze again, and they go through that freeze thaw until they are finally, in the right moment to sprout. So very happy. I've got 30 ginkgo seeds in here. So we'll see how many come out. And then I'm going to make little microclimates around my immediate yard here. Like, okay, so a microclimate that we are zone 2 here, mostly. If you take an area right on the south side of your house that has, a lot of coverage from wind and so on, that zone might be a zone 3. If you build a bunch of stones around it that are going to act as a heat sink, you might be able to get a zone 4. And that's how I got my first ginkgo plant to live, was by creating this sort of artificial zone 4 just by the setup. So that's exciting to me. I'm gonna try that in a bunch of different spots around and see how it goes. And we'll see how many survive, or if I can keep them going. So that is a plant that is reputed to draw all the pollution from the air and detoxify the air. So even if you have one in your home, it's a nice house plant as well. Okay, so that's the beginning part. Are we ready for the video?
No.
Yeah. Oh,
Not quite.
okay.
And it's 3 times.
Okay, no problem. So we have a little video we're going to play, but I'll wait till Ainsley's ready to play it. So we're going to shift now to actually looking at how we're going to use these plants. So we talked about how to plant them, how to collect them from nature, but then now what do we do with them? So there's a number of different ways that you can prepare your herbs. And if you ever purchase herbs from a health food store or an apothecary, you will know some of these things. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called a tincture. So a tincture is the plant material. So this is a motherwort tincture from last year that I haven't decanted yet. So it was the fresh plant material. So what you want to do is harvest it fresh. And I've been given the teaching that we harvest on the full moon. And by the full moon, I mean kind of like the full moon window. So like a couple days before, a couple days after the day of the full moon is the best time to take the plant energy out of the plant to use it. So, and to me that makes sense because like the tides, the moon is controlling many energies on the planet, and including the plant energy. And so if the plant energy is coming, like in the middle of summer, is coming up to the top of the plant to make that flower and then to make that seed, that's where the most medicinal part is. So we're talking about the flowering top. And the flowering top is usually considered sort of budding out to at least 25%. So if you have a cluster budded flower, like let's say alfalfa, because we have a lot of alfalfa. So alfalfa buds and blossoms. So if you can imagine what the full blossom is, if it's at least 25% of the blossom, then the most of that energy will be in that flower. And the flowering top is the top of the flower, and then 2 or 3 leaflets down. So that's the plant material that contains the most medicinal property, and that is what you want to harvest. So when you're harvesting that, the most direct way to turn it into something usable and stored is by turning it into a tincture, if that's what you like using. And obviously very, very cost effective, because tinctures can be very expensive in small amounts, whereas if you're making them for yourself, they're not. So normally we would take that plant material, and some plants are different, so this is not for all of them, but we would chop it up so that we have as much open and exposed plant area as possible, pack it into a jar, and then fill that jar. This is why I have a bottle of vodka, in case you were wondering. It's not for the workshop, in case the workshop goes badly. It's just to say this is a preservative that will also extract all of that medicinal property of the plant, and it will preserve it. So you can make tinctures up that will last for a very long time. And so that is a way. And then to make that, you are chopping up that plant material, as you can see, probably, hopefully you can see it in here. So I'll just pull a little bit of that plant material out. That is what the plant material is looking like as I drop it all over my keyboard. And then you're gonna fill it up with vodka, and make sure that's there's no air pockets in that. And you're gonna shake it every couple days, and you're gonna leave it for at least 1 month. So when it's working in the right sequence, I really like harvesting the plants. So when you think about our growing season, May, June, July, August, September, maybe October, depending on where the full moon lands, if you plot out those full moons, you will see that there's kind of like a little list of plants that are going to be at that perfect stage at each one of those months, because all plants come into bloom differently. And especially for the plants that are root, where we want to harvest the root, that obviously is going to be the last plant of the season that you want to harvest. So another way to do tinctures, here I have a little jar of marshmallow and root. So that's the root just chopped all up. And I've done that one in glycerin. So if you don't want the vodka, the alcohol base, you can also do it in glycerin. Some plants material you can do as apple cider vinegar. And so those are just a few ways of preserving it. Okay, we'll talk about an oil. We'll talk about an oil in a minute. So that that way of preserving that makes that plant material available to you all winter long and or all season, because what happens if you don't have any marshmallow the next year, or you can't find any, or what have you? So this will stay for many, many years, if not decades, and I'll be able to continue to use it throughout that whole time. So that's a couple ways. And then when you want to actually get that plant material out, you're going to just siphon it out. And this is an example of one that I use all the time, is chamomile tincture, because it just promotes such a nice sleep. And so I've strained all the plant material out, and it's back to just being a liquid. So that chamomile, I mean, it came from, here is a pot of chamomile that we harvested and from our chamomile patch. And so, you know, we have all this that I could use as just a tea. And of course, chamomile tea is wonderful, but it's not as strong as a tincture. A tincture, you will just use a very small amount of that, like let's say a teaspoon or half a teaspoon in a full glass of water. But it has much more of a potency because you've basically condensed all of that medicinal property. And also the alcohol means that you're going to pick it up right away into your bloodstream. So it is a very nice way to both preserve your harvest and then use it throughout the winter. So some of those things you will learn by doing what you like, or if you're already purchasing something regularly. That is what got me into it. I was really purchasing echinacea tincture all the time when I was in my young 20s, and then suddenly I put two and two together and had a class, had a class in herbal medicine making, and I realized that, okay, that's something I can do on my own. So that is the tinctures, and so tinctures and others. You can also, we're going to do a couple of honey. Can you let me know when you're ready?
Yeah, it's taking us 3 times.
Okay. So we also have a couple of things that we're going to do with honey. So and honey is another method of extracting medicinal properties. And I just wanted to point out that I'm really, really pleased that a friend of mine, Darnell Plett, has really expanded his honey making capacity. And we now have these large pots of honey in our store, and they are unpasteurized. So let's just talk for a little minute about unpasteurized honey. So unpasteurized honey is what you want to be finding, and you can't always find it in the stores. So if it does not explicitly say unpasteurized on it, then it isn't. So, you know, that's one thing you want to be looking for when you're doing it. And of course, the unpasteurized honey, it maintains all of the properties, the health-giving benefits properties that come from the bees and from the honey. It has them in it. So to pasteurize your honey, you have to bring it quite hot, like almost to boiling. So any recipe that you're going to find that tells you to bring your honey up to a boiling point, please don't. Just, well, if you're working with unpasteurized honey, because that will then pasteurize it and it will ruin all the goodness out of it. So it's good to know your source, to know where those bees are coming from, and to trust your honey farmer, and then to take care of it, because it is, you know, it's great to get off white sugar and just use honey, but also if you use honey well, you're going to be using it as a medicinal, as its full medicinal value. So I've got a number of different recipes that I want to share with you that are honey based. And so I'm just going to take a little moment to look at that, and I'm just going to grab a couple of things over here to bring over. So no?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Are we going to get it? Or? No. Okay. Sorry, we're just still struggling a little bit with our technology, so I'm just going to bring a few things over here.
Can I just hold my phone up?
Yeah, that's true.
Can we do that?
Sure. Do you want to come over here and do it?
Yeah.
We're just struggling. We made an awesome little video about our Healing Salve, and we're just not being able to download it to show it to you. So maybe if you want to do that, Ainsley, that'll give me a moment to just prepare here. Do you want to come over here? Okay, I'm just going to move out of the way.
Right. Yep. I think you'll be able to mostly see it. A little bit of a reflection, but that's okay.
Hey everybody, so this is the setup to start our Healing Salve, product that you might know of, and if not, you will want to try it. I love it. Saved us on many occasions, both for us and for the animals, and we're about to make a batch here. So we start with all of the herbs that you see here, and these are all ones that we grow or wildcraft immediately around us. So we have lavender, yarrow, poplar bud, St. John's wort, calendula, anise, chamomile, comfrey, and red clover. And so all of those have various different medicinal properties that heal the skin, soothe the skin, so on, protect the skin. And we infuse them in oil. So what an oil infusion, this is the raw plant material dried, and we have it packed into this slow cooker, and we mix it together. We pour the organic sunflower oil on it, and then we turn it to warm, just so it's a little bit warm. And we leave it in that state for 5 days so that all of the medicinal properties get pulled out of the plants and into the oil, which is then usable for us. Here's a little, just to demonstrate what it looks like. This is our other product, Soothing Balm, which is just chamomile and calendula, just to make it gentler. And that's what it looks like after the 5 days. And you can see here, this is a clear jar of sunflower oil. This is what it's infused when it is just chamomile and calendula. And this is the infusion that we use for the Healing Salve. So at that point, we're going to turn it over. We've got some honey, unpasteurized honey, some beeswax, some aloe vera are the other ingredients that go into making this. So we're going to now do a little bit of a speed up and show you how we make it. Hey everybody, so this is the setup to...
Right.
Can you show your speed up version?
Yeah. I think that one uploaded, but I'll just show it here too.
Okay.
Yeah, might as well just stick with what we're doing. It's just a little time lapse. It's very short. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Yay, technology. Okay, so that's great. Thank you, Ainsley, for saving the day there. Okay, and that gave me time to pull in all my other ingredients so I can show you how we make these things. So we just talked very briefly about elderberry, and elderberries can grow here, so that's really great. And I mentioned that I got some seeds, so I'm going to try to grow some from seed. But the berries themselves are very tiny. And this is what they look like when they're reconstituted, just like tiny little raisins. And what we did for that, so to make a syrup, and that's a syrup that kids love, by the way. So great for colds and stuff, and coughs. So it makes this beautiful, very dark purple liquid that we've just gently boiled down. So not boiling hard. And then to that, we just are gonna, I'm just opening up, I melted down some honey, with just one small jar of honey to use to show. And so when I melted that down, I just put it in some warm water and just kept putting new warm water in it. So I didn't raise the temperature very high, but I did make it, you know, nice and easy pourable to use. So in case you were wondering about that, you know, how when you get some rock hard honey, what do you do with it to be able to do these kind of things that we're talking about today? That's the best way to warm it up. So we're just, as per the recipe that I put on your on the chat. Oopsie, let me just turn my screen down a tiny bit. I'm just going to put that, okay, I'm not measuring. I gave you a recipe to measure, but I sort of know roughly. And if, in case you don't know, that honey also acts as a preservative. And so I'm just gonna take that, it's warm elderberry. I just made that tea just prior to our workshop, and I'm just stirring that in and making that nice kind of stir. It is a syrup. It's not very thick. I could thicken it up with some more honey. But to me, this is a nice consistency, because then you can just put that a teaspoon of that or a tablespoon of that in some warm water, and it makes for a very, very nice, easy, gentle way to use it. So that is the elderberry tea. I also talked about, it's been a lot in social media in the last little while, the benefits of turmeric, which is also a plant that we can't grow here, but it is one that people talk about often. And I've got a nice big jar of this. This is turmeric, organic turmeric. And I love it for many reasons. I had suffered from some arthritis, although I don't really anymore. And it's great anti-inflammatory, and it's got this beautiful color. And it's got all kinds of other benefits too. So I like to make up a little batch of this and have it just on store. A couple of, again, a specific recipe with measurements is on there. As you will know from my other workshops, or maybe if you just know, I don't like recipes, but I do put them together when I have to help people and teach. But I prefer to know a recipe, then it's easier to just do it. So I'm just going to put that little bit of apple cider vinegar and a little bit of lemon juice and another big glug of honey, of this liquidy honey. Are we seeing this? Yes. Okay, thank you. And then that becomes a base. Again, this one's going to be a little bit thicker than that elderberry because of the turmeric powder. And so that becomes, again, something that I'm going to dilute. So this can just stay in a small jar in your fridge, and you can you can use it at any point in time. I'm a little bit resisting what these are good for because, as I mentioned, I'm not in a position to dispense any advice for medical health. But all of these things, you can research them on your own. And so, you know, they're well known. In days gone by, it would have been, you know, the caretakers of the community, the health caretakers of the community who would have all these recipes. And I do like to think of my grandmother, my one grandmother who was a nurse in a community all her life, and you know, wouldn't have had recourse to much of what we call modern medicine. but she had to take care of people. So I know that some of this, my passion for this comes from her as well. So there it is. That's a nice mixture. It is got a little bit more of a thickness to it, but it's not too thick. So again, you're watering that down and having it as kind of almost even a daily drink through the winter months is a really good idea. Okay, so the next little setup I have is for cough drops. So that I started with a honey that I slowly, so honey has water in it, and you can dehydrate honey and make it actually a crystal. And so what you're doing to make a cough drop is basically just reducing the water out of it and turning it into a crystal. So I've already watered that, I've already cooked that down, and you can see that it's still very liquid, but it's thick. So, and that thickness is not from it cooling, that thickness is from it candying up, or you know, going to what in the candy world we would call a softball stage. So I've just cooked it to that amount. I've taken some ginger and just grated it. Now, if you don't like ginger, if ginger is too hot for you, we could have made this into a tea and then put the water in here, but then you would have to, you know, reduce that boil, like not boil, but like evaporate that down, and it would have taken longer. I like to just, I mean, if you think you could suck on a piece of ginger just as a piece of ginger, that would be a good thing. If you need a little honey to go along with it, then this is kind of the next best thing. So I take that ginger and I'm just going to pour it into my, and I'm going to put a little splash of lemon, because, you know, these are common things that people know: lemon, honey, ginger, right? It is a soothing and healing for the throat. And I'm just mixing that big goop up. And then just, this is just a little tip on how to actually make it. Oh, it smells so good. Is what I've done is I have my little silicone mold, and I've just powdered, if you can see that, I've powdered some arrowroot powder on into those little holes, because into those little spaces, because the arrowroot powder will help coat it. I'm going to powder that on top of them as well. So I'm just going to take that goop that I just made, so we can see it. There we go. No, really?
Go further back.
Further back. I'm going to take that, and there are other things that you can add to this. This is just a very, very simple one. So we're going to just put a little bit of that into each silicone mold, and that is going to be your cough drop. And then as soon as I'm done spreading this out, I'm going to then powder on top of it with some more arrowroot powder, because then it covers and it's not a sticky thing. You can pick them up. You don't have to worry about them sticking together. Like, you know, if you want to throw them into a little baggie, you don't have to worry about them. And then all you do is when you're feeling like you need that little cough drop, you just grab one of these little ones and just suck on it, and there you go. You've got a cough drop with no preservatives, no artificial flavor, and all the goodness that you need for a cough drop. You know, like when you need a cough, when you have a cough and your throat is sore, you don't need candy. You need something that's actually going to help it. So this is what I like doing. And it's already, as it's cooling, it's already drying a little bit harder. So this will last a long time too, because, you know, it's not like a lot of actual commercial cough drops. It seems like you have to take them, and, you know, you end up taking more just because you can't heal yourself. And this will actually help you heal whatever it is that's making that cough come. So in a time when we all need as much antiviral and immune system boosting help as we can, these are all things that help with that. Okay, so that's how I'm going to, and then I'm just going to put that in the, I'm going to cover it again. I'm going to use, oh, It's a little bit far away, but I'm going to do it anyway. What's our time, Ains?
2:46.
Oh, 2:46. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna use that, oops, there we are, that sifter and just dust the tops of those as well. And so then they've got the arrowroot powder on the top and on the bottom. Okay.
We just have a question.
Yes.
Is there a time or temperature you aim to hit when reducing the honey?
Okay, so I just going by feel and by look, I want to reduce it as much as I can, and I don't want it to boil. So I want to keep it just simmering. If you can see the steam rising from it, then you know you're evaporating. And if you see a little bubble of it starting to boil, then you know it's too hot and pull it right off. So that's where, and then what I like to do is, you know, that took maybe about 15, 20 minutes to reduce that. That was not a big amount. You know, I didn't have a lot of honey in there, but to reduce it so that you can work with it like this, then you want it to start thickening up. Like at first, honey will become very, very liquid when you warm it up. And then as you evaporate it, it's still hot, but it's just getting thicker and thicker and thicker, right? So that's what you're watching for, is you just want to get it to a point where you know it's going to go into that little silicone mold and then be able to pop out and be hard. When you're dehydrating honey completely, which we do, we use fully dehydrated honey in a couple of our products, and it comes to a absolutely brittle, hard crystal that you can see through. It's like, you know, it's an amber, it's a beautiful amber, hard as glass kind of texture. So you can bring it down to that degree. If you want that hardness in that lozenge, you can bring it down to that degree if you want. And that's nice too, if you like that quality of a lozenge, then you can do it that way as well. Okay, so we're getting now a little bit to the end, and I've got 3 more things to share. So I'm just going to take a little moment to move that out of the way again.
Starting this in 2.
Okay, thank you. Actually, you can start it now. Okay.
Is it too loud?
Oh, no, it's not that loud. Thanks. Okay, so the next is sort of a couple of things I like to do in my daily, okay, not quite daily routine, but in, let's say, my weekly routine. And if I am lucky, I do it as a self-care thing. These are 3 things that I wanted to share with you. And the first is something I do daily, which is a smudge. And I've talked about this before on other weeks, but I'm going to talk about it again because we talked about the sage earlier. There are many smudgeable medicinal herbs that are used in indigenous ceremonies, and they are, you know, they each have their own story and huge, you know, learnings around those smudges. So I'm not in a position to share those, but I just wanted to tell you that, just as an example, here is one that I collect, which is the sage from our immediate environment. It grows wild in our environment. And so making a bundle like that means that you could smudge it. It's dried. And so you could use it as a smudge by just burning the tip. And another medicinal herb, this one was gifted to me as sweetgrass. We know that often used in ceremonies. Beautiful, beautiful grass that is native to here, to this ecosystem. And then the last one, also I've talked about, but always worth mentioning because it does grow here too, is tobacco. And actually, maybe that is too loud, Ainsley.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot how loud it was. Okay, that's my kettle boiling. So this is tobacco, a little cluster of tobacco leaves, not for a smudge, but for ceremonial purposes. And I wanted to just say that I have a lot of tobacco seeds, and I'm always happy to give them away. I only give them away. And so if anybody wants to grow some tobacco in their gardens this year, please message me and make an arrangement. We'll get you some tobacco seeds. But the tobacco is a great medicinal spiritual plant here, and it grows very well. It also acts as an awesome pesticide or a pest deterrent in our gardens. So it's worth planting around in your gardens for that purpose as well. So I've got some of that here. But today I'm going to smudge. So a little smudge goes a long way, and you are breathing that in, and the smoke is going into your lungs, and for some people that's not a good thing, and for others it is, but just that little nice wispy sage. So this is something that I do almost every day, is just to clear the air in the house and to be, have a moment of thankfulness for my environment and my learning and my work. Usually I just have that little smudge, and that is a very fundamental relationship with our, our environment and our own personal beliefs that we can do with our plant material every day. So that's one. The second one is on a more of a when you need it kind of thing. And I said I would talk about, this is my boreal forest mix. And in there, you might be able to see or tell, but there is cedar and pine and sage and juniper and Labrador tea. And together, all of these create just this beautiful scent. So in the winter, when I'm not able to get to the boreal forest, or we just aren't spending time in forests, and forests don't have this beautiful smell, it's just wonderful to be able to just smell that. So that same, the way we get with our smudge, we can get it just from the plant material being available to us. And for that, one of the things I like to do with it is to do an actual smudge or an actual steam. So like smoke, steam is also another way to breathe in that medicine. And I like to, that same material that I just showed you, I like to put it through my little grinder like this. And when you grind up that dried material, it becomes, I just have a little bag of it, I'll show you. It becomes a very fine powder. I'm gonna spill it again. That looks kind of like that. And that, even just when I open this bag, it just a huge wave of smell, because what that does is it breaks it all open. And then you have all of the essential oils that are in that, like locked into that material. You can smell them for sure when you have that, that little potpourri of that material. You can smell all that. But when you grind them up, you just have this huge wave. So what I'm going to do, if you don't do this, sometimes we do this when we're not feeling well. But we can do it at any time. Anytime you need to breathe that forest air in, I'm just going to put a nice handful into this bowl here. A little more. And I'm going to take my boiled kettle. Thank you. And I'm just going to pour it all on top of that. So it's already releasing. And that steam is just so easy to breathe in. And so I'm getting all of that material, that plant material is coming into my lungs by the vehicle of warm, humid air. And so I'm able to breathe it in and get it right into my lungs. I would take my glasses off and I would put my face down. I would put my towel on top of my head, and I would just simply breathe that all in. And like I say, you don't have to be sick to give yourself a steam. In fact, giving yourself a steam is just a really beautiful gift you can give to yourself at any time. And it just, if you want to, do some of your breathing exercises to relief, to have tension relief or anxiety or any of that, just breathing in that fresh forest air will do it. So we've got that. And then last but very much not least, and this, I'm sorry you can't do unless you have a goat, or you can get some goat milk, I should say. But I have, I'm gonna make myself a foot bath, and I just wanted to show you how I set it up. So I have this really nice little bin of rocks that I've collected, and they're kind of like all different sizes, and they're just really nice. So what's gonna happen is the heat, I'm gonna pour hot milk, hot goat's milk, and hot water, and some Epsom salt and some herbs into that. And then I'm going to soak my feet. And that's a wonderful gift to yourself when you're tired, or just your feet are achy, or if they're getting really, you know, rough around the edges and you need to give them a boost. That is a wonderful thing to do. So I'm gonna put that back onto the floor where my feet are gonna go. And Ainsley, is it just about warm?
Yeah, it's decently warm.
Okay. So Ainsley has warmed up a, I'm gonna go back there. Do you want to just set it there, and then I'll take it. We have learned to dance around each other in our workspace when we don't, I didn't want to wear a mask for this. So I've got a nice pot of warm milk, and I'm going to put that into my stone bath. And then those stones act as a heat sink, and they hold that heat in there so it'll stay warmer for longer. And I've got another warmed up, this is just the container that the milk was in, warmed up, put in there. And I've got some Epsom salt that you can get easily anywhere. Even Bulk Barn has Epsom salt, so on. You don't have to, doesn't have to be expensive. I'm just going to put maybe like a nice big handful in there, or two actually. That looks good. And that, I only need it to be just a little bit higher than where my feet are going to go. So you don't need very much water. And then for me today, I'm going to put some roses in there. So I've got some nice roses sitting here calling me, and it's going to be a rose petal day. So I'm just going to take those. Yeah, I could put them in my mortar and pestle to crunch them up, but these are really dry, and I know they're just going to crunch up as I do them. So I'm just crunching them between my fingers here, putting them in. Oh, that looks so pretty. I wonder if I can show you. A little milk soup with rocks underneath it. And so to end on a lovely note, I'm going to take off my Manitoba Mucklucks, another fine Manitoba company, and pull up my leggings and pull off my socks and put my feet in. And breathe my beautiful forest air. So it's just about 3 o'clock.
1 minute.
1 minute left. And if any of you would like to leave me any comments or questions, I will get back to you. But thank you very much for joining me today. And we will be editing this and putting it up onto our YouTube channel in case you wanted to get it. And all the recipes will be on our website. So have a lovely, healthy, restful rest of your day. And I hope that this has inspired you to get involved in some plant magic in your own way. Have a wonderful day. Bye.